Welcome back to Geeks Assemble podcast. We're reviewing a movie that's quintessentially 80s until it starts. I'm Chance.
And I'm Colby. And we are looking at Thor Ragnarok. That was a lot better in my head. But having now, we both watched this opening weekend. We're recording a
Opening
little bit.
day for me.
Yeah, actually, yeah, it was. I was a few days after, but we've had a little time to sit on it, think about it, and there's a good chance that most of our listeners have probably already watched it by now, which is kind of a unique position for our film discussions. We usually do them like right in the moment of their opening weekend, and so we wanted to give it a little time and make sure everybody sees the number one movie in the world, and we want to hear from you to discuss more about it. Maybe able to bring in some comments while we're talking about it, because I know some of y'all have had some ideas, but we just want to kind of talk about Thor Ragnarok. I guess I'll let you get us going, man. Let's just jump in.
Sure. Let's just talk overarching, dividing it up based on its biggest strength and biggest weakness. What would you say, as far as this movie goes, was its biggest strength?
Its sense of fun. It's something I think that was and as far as that goes, that's the strength. Its sense of fun. I think the movie just kind of starts off, and it's this wacky, crazy. Like you don't really. There's a familiarities that we've gotten so far. I think this is the 17th Marvel movie, and so we kind of people have called it cookie cutter, of some of the movies, and as far as what's going on in them, and so in this one, it was just like, okay, you start off. Full spoilers, by the way, as we do this, as we're used to do. But you start off and Thor is like hanging up by chains, and it's like, okay, we're going to get into something. He's probably going to have some kind of serious dialogue, and all of a sudden, he's spinning around in a circle, and it's full on jokes. And I think that scene, especially with Surtur, just kind of set the tone for the whole movie. But it was just fun, and I think that. For me, it was a strength. For a lot of folks, that probably would have been a huge, huge weakness. This is just going to be, I think you're going to get this as we talk, very divisive movie with folks. Like, you're either going to love it or hate it. I think we both really liked it. But there's a lot of folks that have a lot of defendable reasons for why they didn't. That's my biggest strength. What's yours?
I'll have to disagree with you.
Oh, here we go.
More on that.
On that later.
Right? As it develops. Biggest strength, I would actually say, is its pacing.
Yeah.
I say that pretty much for the whole movie, there wasn't any point where I'm like, guys, this movie's still going.
Yeah, you get that with some folks.
I've got that with some movies.
With some movies, but is it that with Marvel movies? I guess that's the more pertinent question. I mean, do you have pacing problems with any Marvel movies now that you've said that?
Well, I think there's just intrinsic problems with a lot of them, and that's just how you get to tell the story. But because in any story, any good story, there's not action all the time, and there's not lull all the time, and pacing is very important.
Yeah,
because that's just how real life works. That they're not always, smashing aliens with a hammer or blocking laser blasts with shields.
You're not?
No, not me.
Oh man,
I get a little bit of downtime
for some people.
I know when you're as powerful as I am, I get it done and I get out. But yeah, pacing, like I said, like they did a pretty decent job of cutting from one story to the other. Because at the beginning you just have Thor basically laying out how everything's going on, and then it kind of diverges.
Well, and also as you say that, within the confines kind of how the first two movies are structured. You have Thor on an adventure. In the first movie, he went after the ice giants. In the other movie, he was kind of trying to bring peace to the other realms. And you had those scenes where he's kind of doing his, for lack of a better term, I know it sounds terrible, this Thor thing, and then you start the movie off, he's doing that, and then after that, the movie just like, I guess going along with yours about pacing and combining it with a sense of fun is like you just did not know, I didn't at least, kind of know what was going to happen next. Even though, I follow marketing of the movies a lot closer, I think, than you do because of spoilers and such. But I thought that this movie was just full of surprise moments. Again, that's good for me, bad for some. One of our readers in the Citadel said this was, Christina Graham said this was her least favorite of the Thor movies. They portrayed Thor as goofy and while his goal was ultimately good, he wasn't a great person to his friends. Humor's okay in some instances, but this movie was just cheesy joke after cheesy joke, though I had a lot of them. I admit a lot of them were funny and I did laugh. I feel like the movie would have been better if it had kept the more serious tone of the previous movies and added a plucky comedic side character instead of making the main hero the comic relief. Now, that's a perfectly laid out and I think backable argument for that. But that's just
wrong.
No. But I mean, I think that Christy, that is a perfectly valid opinion. And it's somebody who watched the movie. I know she wrote a Bible study about it. She's went into the movie about it, thought it out, and came out with that opinion. And those same things I like about it. So I mean, it is really it's going to be a divisive movie, I think, for folks.
Yeah, that was actually segueing right into what I thought was the biggest weakness.
Go ahead. What was yours?
And that was pretty much it. It went too hard. It did a complete 180 from the other movies. Mm-hmm. It's just like, you get the feeling that they don't know how they want Thor to be, mm-hmm. and there's not really any character development. He's a serious, like, speaking in Shakespearean and other movies, and then all of a sudden he's a goofy crack up that, kind of klutzy.
It is a little jarring.
Yeah,
I will say that they did a shift in this movie, and took him, all the way to one side about things, but. I do disagree with you, and when you said there's no character development, because I guess I could put this in my strength. I was surprised by the end of the movie, having laughed throughout and had a fun time, that just like the trilogies for Captain America and the trilogy for Iron Man, that there is, within this whole realm of the MCU, for these characters, there are beginning and ends of character arcs, and Thor got one too. Like, even though it was goofy and we laughed, we went through all of that, it was by the end of the movie, I kind of looked in retrospect and I'm like, wow, a lot happened in this movie, along for the ride. Like, and I guess that goes with your pacing, but a lot happened here, good stuff that I enjoyed. So your weakness was maybe a little too much comedy, or too far.
Yeah, I think they lack a lot of quality control. They either go to one extreme or the other, and you have the complete and total seriousness of Dark World going right into Ragnarok, which is just might as well be a comedy movie with some action.
Did you get to? I know that we talked a little bit about it. Did you get to watch any movies by Taika Waititi, the director of the movie?
I mean, I'm coming into this.
Taika, I guess is how you say his name.
I'm coming into this completely unfamiliar with the director.
His body of work. Okay. I've seen a movie or two of his. I know I've seen Eagle vs. Shark. He's got a movie about the vampires that gets brought up a lot. I think What Happens in the Shadows or something like that. What Happens in the Dark. But I haven't got to watch that myself. I have seen Eagle vs. Shark, and I thought it was very funny. I think it might have been. It was one of his early movies. It may not have been his first, but he is definitely a director with comedic sensibilities. Well, they knew when they hired him what they were getting. The fact that they hired him tells me that Marvel knew where they were going with it. But it is a huge shift, and much of the movie was improvised. I read that. Of course, we're not on set. We don't know these things, but from what we can read, much of Thor Ragnarok was improvised, which is crazy considering this is a multi-million-dollar. All movies are multi-million-dollar productions, but a huge budgeted tent-pole movie. And a lot of it is just riffing, but I enjoyed it. Weakness, I hadn't really thought about that before now. I guess there is a character who's a weakness, and I hate to say it because I really like him and I was looking forward to him in the movie, but I think that it's a little too aimless with Jeff Goldblum's character, the Grandmaster. Yes, the Grandmaster. Whenever he is on the scene, the laughs are a little more. For me, it was a little more. I was kind of watching him. I know you can't get this listening, but kind of like some of the jokes land, some of them don't. It's all weird. It's all Goldblum, but it just didn't gel as much as some of the other characters did for me.
Yeah, it was very, like, almost awkward at times, just because I think the Grandmaster, I should say, Jeff Goldblum's performance in this was another big weakness. It was with the overarching issues that it had, as far as I thought, with like a little bit too much comedic value and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I would say definitely for sure the weakest character I would have to say was Grandmaster.
Oh yeah,
he was not imposing in the slightest.
In a movie that's full of him physically imposing characters, not to say that you have to be physically imposing, but yes, there really wasn't much of a threat there, other than he has things at his faculties to, as far as the games and all that. I mean, like, he doesn't pose a threat other than putting you in the ring amongst other threats.
And this is the problem I've seen with just about any Jeff Goldblum performance, and other people have confirmed with me when I've brought that up, that's just kind of how he acts. He's just Jeff Goldblum in whatever costume you put him in, and then he'll just read the lines off the paper.
I beg to differ.
Some people like that.
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Smith did that on his Fat Man on Batman cast. They talked about that very briefly, that it was just Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum
in this movie.
Yeah, walking on set, and they were cool with it. They said they're just gracing. I think one of the things said was that he was just gracing them with his presence, and they were totally cool with it. Which I don't know.
Did you know? And you may be able to tell me because my mind is going blank here, but Benicio del Toro's character, the Collector, in the comics, is he a brother to the Grandmaster? Because they are both the same type of being.
I do not know that.
I don't remember either, but I thought that was a connection that was missed. I know that in the credits for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, if you'll notice, if you go back and watch it, because now it's on Blu-ray, DVD, digital, whatever, go back and watch the credits, and if you'll look just for a second there, you'll see Jeff Goldblum kind of dancing in the credits, and you're kind of like, why, what? Well, those two are related, but that didn't get referenced. I thought that was something that, the world, the MCU is kind of tying this to that all the time. That would have been a nice thing to tie in. If they did, I missed it completely. But actually furthering the connection, because that connection is actually, I believe, there from the comics. But yeah, I mean, I guess his character would be the weakness. I mean, I had fun with the movie, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, I see your point on those, and on your points, and I just, it is a jarring change. It's not a bad change to me, but I do think, while we're on this topic, because I think we're going to talk, we'll get to a point of talking even more about comedy, I think that the movie, I don't want every MCU movie to have this tone. Like, I don't mind even, like we talked about the director having another project down the line, but I don't want every movie to be a riff fest, riffing on, the comedy of the moment, and I don't think they will be. I think that's a lot of times people are taking that out of proportion, but I don't want that to happen. So, I mean, I do agree with you about the comedy was a little strong.
Well, which I didn't hate all the comedy, and some of it I felt very refreshing in certain instances, where a particular instance I can think of is when Hela was addressing Scourge in the throne room, and she's trying to explain something to him, and then she starts to try to further explain it, then kind of gives up. Like, it seemed like a very natural way someone would try to talk to someone who doesn't understand.
Yeah.
But it wasn't just everyone knows everybody's plans and they automatically understand each other. There's miscommunication and stuff that exists in humanity, so it just was
natural,
interesting.
even in Asgard.
Yeah. It was weirdly to say, it was refreshing to see natural miscommunication.
Well, as we both acknowledge, I mean, I like the sense of fun. We've said there might be too much comedy. One of our listeners, Olin Cox, said, the whole "I don't like X Marvel movie because it's too funny or goofy" shtick is old. Marvel has never been one to take itself seriously, especially with Thor. He isn't serious. They tried that once with Dark World, Thor the Dark World, and it threw his character rhythm off. I mean, I see his point there. The weekend, did you get to watch Thor 1 and 2 before you watched Ragnarok, like as a refresher?
No.
You didn't actually have to. I mean, I did. I watched them the weekend that I watched the movie, and so going from one into the next and then into Ragnarok, I think it was especially jarring for me because, the comedy was amplified. There was comedy in all three three movies, but it was definitely amplified and expanded upon.
I think that was to speak for how kind of disjointed it was of a movie, was that you didn't have to see the other two, and you didn't feel like you missed a single bit of the movie. Yeah. But as far as we talked about the Grandmasters, the other two, they kind of had like a 3 versus 3 battle here throughout the movie.
Mm-hmm.
3 antagonists, 3 protagonists. Well, the other two, what do you think of the portrayal of Hela, the goddess of death?
I thought that there were moments where some of her dialogue went flat, but I think that Cate Blanchett, who is no stranger to fantasy, which, I mean, even though this is, Marvel sci-fi superhero kind of thing, Thor gives it that whole fantasy element. She's no stranger to fantasy, and this gave her a chance to kind of play in that type of world in a different way than she has before. And I could just tell, going back to that sense of fun, she was having a blast. We were having a blast.
She had a very big presence throughout the movie.
Yeah.
Just anytime she was on screen, that was where you were looking. That was your focus.
Mm-hmm. I mean, you couldn't help it. She filled the screen literally with the headdress that she had. When she's on there, and if she did the whole hair wipe once, and she did it 1,000 times, but the whole wiping of her hair kind of into a headdress was cool. They did it a whole lot, but yeah, I mean, it was fun to watch her have a great time with that character. Hela was well done.
And I kind of feel like maybe that whole, since you mentioned it, the wiping of the head.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that may have been way more intentional and way more on purpose than originally thought, because I'm sure that probably was something for maybe the CGI artists or something. Maybe, maybe it's that much. It's easier, and they couldn't find a natural way to make it look like
does it just appear. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that could be it. That may be it. Movie magic. Who knows? But Hela was very, very well done. Yeah. And
yeah.
Good. It's good. But Grandmaster, not so much. Not so much. And I hate to say that, because I know you're not really a fan of Jurassic Park movies, but I have been all growing up, and so
here come the hate letters.
Here come the hate. Let's just get it out there and let everybody hear it. But no, I enjoy Jeff Goldblum. He does kind of play himself in the movies, but I enjoy watching him, and so seeing him in this, it just, not all of it worked. Not to say it was a complete bomb. But it just didn't all work.
So what'd you think about Surtur?
Awesome. Did you catch who did the voice
of Surtur?
Yeah.
I don't guess so.
Clancy Brown. Mr. Krabs.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, Clancy Brown, Lex Luthor. I mean, he's done a ton of voice work. He's one of them great character actors. But yes, he is Mr. Krabs.
That would have been
changed
funny
it all.
to hear Surtur laugh. That would have been a funny little drawback thing.
Money. But yeah, I thought visually, I mean, you only get to kind of see him at the beginning and the end. But visually, man, it was awesome. I thought he was probably as well done of a CGI villain encounter character that Marvel's had yet. I know that it's going to get crazy in Infinity War, but I thought that this is a good preface into that, and it should be. I mean, he's, he brings about Ragnarok. So
he's a major character in the Thor mythos. So
yeah,
it's interesting to see him actually, and even in the context of Ragnarok, seeing him so little involved in the whole overall movie.
Yeah. I think that there is, in some people's minds, a whole other movie that is Ragnarok, but that would have centered much more on him. And I'm sure there are people that have planned that out in their heads that didn't really care for this approach that this movie had, but that they, I thought that with this movie, within the confines of what it is, they did a very fine job visually, and of course they cast the perfect voice actor to handle the character. So great. I guess if there's three, they got 2 out of 3 really, really well with the villains. But what about Scourge? He's kind of, I guess, a supporting character.
Yeah, I just put a supporting character because Billy didn't do much in the movie.
Well, that's what I kind of wanted to get to. Is like, okay, you got Carl Urban, who is one of my like out there kind of character actor favorites that are out there right now. I love him in Star Trek. He didn't get enough to do in those movies as Bones. And then, of course, The Lord of the Rings, and then Judge Dredd when he played in Dredd. And so knowing that he was going to be in this movie, and by his build and how they shown him in the trailers, I thought, man, he's really going to go toe-to-toe with Thor. Did they really ever even have an encounter in the entire movie? I mean, there is this scene, he likes his guns. What was it? What did he call them? His 2 guns.
Oh, Des and Troy?
Yeah, Destroy. Yeah, that's right.
Together
Okay.
they destroy.
Yeah. And, there's a shot like in the trailer, of course it was the Immigrant Song. Because you hear it like, I think 2 or 3 times in the movie. But, there's a shot where him shooting the guns and you think, man, yeah, we're going to get this. And he really didn't get much to do. But I thought that, with that said, that Carl Urban did a good job with what he was given as far as, I just thought it was going to be a bigger part. And he did have he had an arc. Like, he kind of started off as like an idiot, for lack of a better term. I don't know, just kind of out there character, and he got wrapped up in something that he didn't want, and so he had a redemption moment, which was cool. But other than that, there wasn't anything to the character.
Yeah, and I think that was a big criticism of his character, was the fact that he didn't do much. We never got invested in him as a character. Yeah. So when he died, it just didn't really feel anything. It wasn't that big a deal. We haven't known him prior to this movie.
What about the Warriors 3? I'm
telling you,
we know
Shock.
those. Yeah, we know those characters.
Like, oh wow, well, the Warriors 3 should at least like
get heroic deaths, and it's like bam, bam, bam.
Just immediately just kill them all off, except for one. Was getting all the troops ready or prepared.
Yeah, he gets a little more of a moment, but like, was it Fandral and what's the other one's name? Man, it's hard to. I know Hogan is the one who got a little bit of more of a moment. But the Ray Stevenson character, the red bearded one, I cannot remember his name.
Gimli and Chuck just got knocked off really quick immediately.
Yeah, I think for okay, so I guess this is a point we can kind of talk about the Warriors 3 and then Jane Foster, very important characters, and I'm going to throw another one in there, Sif. All very, very important characters in the past 2 movies. Quickly dispatched, referenced in dialogue, or not even referenced at all.
Yeah, where was Sif?
Well, what the logistics of that was. She's doing a show. I think it's called like Blind Spot or something. She has a TV show. The actress Jamie Alexander, and they didn't schedule it where she could be in the movie. Like they asked her like at the last minute, so she didn't get in the movie. And she was bummed about it, worse as anybody.
She didn't get in on the
You said, I know that. But she didn't get in it, and she was just as surprised as everybody else. She thought they'd have a little more.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean Thor Ragnarok just came out this last weekend? I never got a phone call.
The premiere is tonight.
I better get up there and hurry and shoot my scene so they can add that in there.
Yeah. And so, I mean, they referenced Jane Foster as kind of, we broke up, which I thought was kind of crap. But, because she is as important of a character in the movies and also in the larger Thor universe, or like as far as the storylines, as anybody. And then it's like, we broke up. Yeah,
and it makes it even more like unrealistic, just given the fact that in the first movie she knows the dude for like what was the span of a whole weekend, and she falls in love with this dude.
Yeah,
just knowing him, and then gets bored that he can like.
Yeah, the only one who can pick up this Asgard in the second movie. Like she knows, okay, he's legit.
Met Daddy.
Met Odin, and and then the movie just kind of ends. They were in good graces at the end of Dark World, and then it's like, oh yeah, we broke up. I don't know. There were a lot of the retroactive stuff just kind of got left out to dry, you know. And I don't know. The character of Thor and the character of Loki were handled very well arc-wise for 3 movies, but no one else.
But we didn't even.
No one else.
We haven't even talked about. I mean, we talked a little bit about Thor, but we haven't talked really about Hulk or the new edition, Valkyrie, yet.
See, I guess with Valkyrie, we could have had almost that whole arc, I think, been as satisfying had Sif been that role and not include Valkyrie at all. Not to
Sif
say
wasn't a Valkyrie.
I realize that, but what I'm saying is that refigure the movie, but I'm just meaning as far as tying them together, letting them work together after 2 movies of kind of being, beating around the bush. And I think in the Dark World there was the whole instead of being with Jane, be with an Asgardian, and here's Sif and she's great for you type thing, and of course they didn't wind up together. But had they had her in the role, they didn't have to add a new character. They could have figured the movie in a way where you don't have to include the whole thing of the Valkyries.
Are you talking like a Human Torch Captain America situation here? Just recast, hope no one notices? Or?
No, not a recast, but just had they planned it out better, I think that the movie would have been more satisfying with the whole companion role of Valkyrie had she not been there and had been Sif, and refigure it, rework it. But that way you got a past character other than Thor and Loki, and Odin's in there too, but we can't forget. But have those characters, have Sif in there, and then it would be more satisfying for folks, because now she's just kind of they didn't even write her out. They didn't even bring her up. Like it doesn't exist.
She was busy. All right.
But as far as so Valkyrie on her own terms, I didn't think she was a bad character. I thought that the actress Tessa Thompson, she did as good of a job with the character as anybody. I know that there's been a little controversy about the characters. I guess what was meant to be her sexuality and stuff, and that the Valkyries, I guess, were bisexual or something it made all kinds of headlines. But then they kind of edited away from that, and Marvel, Disney at large, I mean, people took issue with that. But
I've always thought Valkyries were female, but maybe I thought that was kind of
no. I mean, yeah, but I mean that they're women attracted to women or men bisexual. But that's what I'm meaning, not. Yeah, that was in the movie that they showed her like getting all upset because there was one that fell that was supposed to have been her companion, and Marvel kind of edited away from that, and folks got aggravated. It made a lot of headlines.
Actually, that's interesting because I never got that vibe. Like you're talking about when like the sword went through the woman in front of her.
Yes, it was like a flashback, like a painterly flashback scene.
No, I took that as a different way. I took that as like that's why she's drinking and everything is because she's so guilty that the reason she survived was because she saw an attack coming, that sword that was meant for her, and she hid cowardly behind someone else.
Yeah, I mean, see, and that works. That interpretation works. But really, what she was drinking about, supposed to have been, was that she lost her lover. And folks, because that wasn't explicitly shown out, and they edited away from it, then because there were some other scenes they were going to do to establish her sexuality, that really got all people got their feathers rustled about stuff. But I think you're going to see things like that more and more in these movies, especially because they're so popular. Folks wanting homosexual characters, bisexual characters, transsexual characters, all of that stuff in these movies. And at the end of the day, I'm just over here like, let's watch a movie.
Did they ever say her name in the movie? What was her character's name besides Valkyrie?
Valkyrie. They never said her name. I mean, and some people took issue with that. I think Christina, I don't know if it was in our group or in Geeks Under Grace, she took issue with that because she should have had a name. Valkyrie.
The reason I mention it is because I'm actually familiar with another
Valkyrie.
No, with another Asgardian. I think it was actually the actual Odin's firstborn, Angela.
Oh, you're talking about Angela from Spawn.
Yes.
Yeah, that they've brought from Image and integrated into Marvel.
Because her whole deal was lesbian relationship she had with I think the girl's name was like Sarah or something to that effect.
Yeah.
But she gets sent down to the underworld, like gets sent, and she has to go fight her way
through it, kind of a Dante's Inferno type thing.
Right. It really kind of was, because it, like in the whole mythos, she becomes queen of the underworld so that she can rewrite the rules of the underworld so that she can leave.
Well, and of course with Angela being from Spawn, that's just ripe for all of that underworld changing of stuff.
But that's why I'm saying I didn't know her name. I didn't know if they were going to try to make her Angela.
No, yeah, they didn't. Something. Yeah, but it is interesting that like you just said, Hela is not in the comics this firstborn sister of Thor type thing. They do in these movies change quite a bit of stuff, and so. But no, I don't remember a name intended for Valkyrie. I guess we could go back and look at the credits, but I think she's just named Valkyrie. And I know that was kind of brought up. I've read that before. It's like, she should have had a name, and I get that. But the Hulk,
yeah,
more Hulk, please. I love Hulk. Hulk is done right with Ruffalo. I like watching him, and within the tone of this movie, I think it works. I mean, it let him be. It's not that I just go out and watch Ruffalo movies. I mean, he does a lot of like indie movies and stuff like that. Not that I wouldn't watch those, but I'm a fan of his take on Banner. And of course, and with the motion capture, he's playing the Hulk too. So I mean, it's him through and through. That wasn't always the case with the Hulk in the movies. A lot of computer work filled in the gaps, but his performance is through there all the way through. And seeing a talking Hulk, we've gotten little words here and there. I guess I was more of a fan of Banner and his dialogue than the moments of Hulk talking, like fire, like on the bed with Thor talking about stuff. You're hot fire and all this stuff, and I just didn't I didn't like all that, but I like Ruffalo getting more moments to just be Banner. And we kind of lose that because Ruffalo's he's gotten Avengers. He got an after credit sequence. Was it for Iron Man 3 or 2? I don't remember, but he had an after credit sequence after one of the movies. Avengers 1, Avengers 2, and now this. Was he in Iron Man 3? Just for a moment? I don't remember, but I mean, he's not had a whole
Nobody remembers anything
about Iron Man. Oh.
Trevor kind of overshadowed that whole situation.
Yeah. But there's a lot of time that we've kind of missed out on the character due to the rights. We don't get it. We haven't gotten another Hulk movie. What we're going to get is the Hulk in several movies, and I don't want them to just go full Hulk. Like in this movie, he's been Hulk for 2 years. He's been hulked out for 2 years. He wasn't Banner for that period of time, and so I've always preferred the whole he's this and that, not that he's just all Hulk all the time.
So is that what you are you cool with letting that be kind of what it's insinuated that you have from that has been a plot point for a lot of movies that he's been in as Hulk, is that it's just all of a sudden he's like way more advanced in that aspect of Hulk, because in the first one he can't control it, he's freaking out, he can't become Hulk when he wants, and then right when it served the plot in Avengers, he was able to control it, and then now we're all the way to Thor Ragnarok, and now he's carrying on a conversation using words like smoldering and everything, and
having conversations.
So you just think it's just the fact that he just has stayed as Hulk so much that he can
developed it. I guess within the realms of these movies, then yes, he had to have, because he's been it for so long. Because as he's talking, it is still pretty primitive. He's not full blown like early '90s in the comics Hulk. Like actually just being Banner. As he walks and talks. They pretty much merged throughout some periods of the comics. But seeing in this movie, I guess because I just like seeing Ruffalo being just kind of, his take on Banner. I much prefer it to Edward Norton, who did a fine job, but I much prefer it to him. And even Eric Bana from the 2003 movie, I think. Of course, that was before we even had an MCU. But he's my favorite, and so I like to see him be him. And this movie allowed some moments of that, and that was my favorite stuff about it. People are going to joke and laugh about Hulk butt and some of those things, and I thought that some of that was a little too far, but I just kind of like seeing Ruffalo in over his head, like he comes to on a trash planet. Like, what am I doing here? And rightly so. What are you doing here? We never. I guess there was some kind of a portal opened up on Earth that led to that. I don't know, but it's just all of a sudden he's flying the Quinjet, and then it's like a couple years later he's in a gladiator arena. It's just movies.
That's how he said he got there, was through one of those little portals that was spewing trash out.
Yeah, it just opened up on Earth and nobody else noticed.
I mean, I guess I don't know. Could be any kind of thing, but start the plot, so what does it matter?
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Move on.
He's there. Who was your favorite supporting character? I have mine. It's really easy. Don't even have to think about it.
Odin?
Who was in the movie for 5 minutes total screen time?
Okay. And added tons of gravitas, as he always does. Now, I did enjoy seeing him and the little non sequitur that he pops off as. Actually, it was Loki as Odin. But when this movie starts and Thor just pops up on the scene, you got to admit, everybody in my screening probably laughed as hard at Odin as they did at anything of that. That was funny because it was so unexpected. But he. Yeah, I mean, I think I guess we mean supporting character. Like, are you going to say Loki?
No.
Oh.
I mean, it was a trick question. There is only one right answer.
Okay, what is the right answer? Inform me, please.
Of course, it's Korg.
Oh. Yeah. Why am I blanking out? Of course.
It was amazing supporting character.
Of course, played by the director.
Yep.
And so, yeah. Now, they took some liberties. Korg is in the comics, obviously, for people who've followed Planet Hulk, I think World War Hulk. Korg exists, and Korg is one of these creatures. Where are they from? Was it Saturn or Jupiter? They're supposed to be in the comics. They're rock men from, I don't know if it's a moon of Jupiter or Saturn or what, but they in the movies, of course, Thor quickly dispatched one of those rock men in
he's a Cronin.
The Dark World. Yes, Cronin, but I guess Kronos, isn't that a moon? I think that's a moon of Jupiter.
You don't know.
Here we go with the astronomy. Who knew that this would be what we come down to on our podcast? But no, Korg was great. Why did I say Odin?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Korg was awesome.
I mean, it is.
He's leading a revolution.
Yeah, Cronin. It doesn't say where the planet he's from, though, so that's interesting. But maybe I could just look up Cronin. But either way.
But yeah, I mean, he as soon as he comes on the scene, it's just the whole movie. Saturn? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I was in the right solar system, but I did say Saturn, so Jupiter or Saturn.
You want a medal?
I do want a medal. It would be awesome. But Korg, I really liked him.
Their whole planet is Rhea.
Oh. Well,
first from the sun in the Corona star system.
See, where's that in the movie?
Right?
I need backstory.
But apparently it's in the same galaxy, though.
Ah.
So, same galaxy, but just different solar system. The more you know.
Da-na-na-na. Okay, that was all out of tune. But yeah, Korg. What did you like about him other than everything?
Well, everything. I mean, other than everything.
Yeah, he I think for a lot of folks makes the movie.
Does it make the movie? I mean,
well, no, he literally made the movie. He's the director. But I mean, as far as the character goes, he was just a breath of fresh air when it comes to the Thor has been, these last two movies, very self-serious. There was always in the first movie, he goes in and I need a horse, and goes into the pet shop, need a horse, and throw the cup down, and another, and there's that like fish out of water element because Thor was on Earth and figuring things out. And then even some of that to a degree in the second one, but he's much more serious in the second one, and then than he was even in the first one. But you get into this movie, Korg is like full-blown hilarity. Everything he says was just funny.
Hey, man.
Hey, man. It's not just what he says, it's how he says it. So, yeah. Forget Odin.
Yeah.
I'm a Korg fan.
Yeah. Replace all of... God, now I'm blanking on his name.
Odin's lines with Korg?
No, replace all of his movies. Yeah.
Oh, you mean you want Korg in Silence of the Lambs?
Yeah, why not? No, that's killing me now. Anthony?
Anthony Hopkins.
Hopkins, yeah, I knew it. Okay, we're there.
Yeah, man. I eat his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
It worked. It was funny.
Oh, it definitely worked.
And it all kind of set it up as a maybe get a side movie or something. Maybe that would be cool.
Oh, you know how they were? I don't know if there really are anymore, but on the Blu-rays they were doing these like one shots. Give us a Korg one shot. No, give us a Korg 12 shot. Like we want like a mini. Let's get a Netflix series of Korg.
Interesting.
Yes. Like, okay, forget the rest of the podcast. This is going to turn into a petition. We're going to enlist now. It's a revolution, guys. Let's get this going.
But I think they may be going in the wrong direction just because that's kind of the charm of Korg, is that the brevity of his appearances on screen.
Or you think it'd play out if we had any more?
Yeah, I think it would be just kind of a joke that like, okay, yeah, it's just a rock dude who's got a funny voice. Like we just need to cherish Korg for how he is and what he did for us in that movie.
With that one time, that one time makes it so magical. Yeah, Korg was awesome.
What about the actual plot of the movie?
There was a plot?
Right? That's kind of where I'm at right now.
What now? Okay, you've seen it more than I have. You've seen it twice.
Yeah.
So after
Which
seeing
is more than once.
It is more than once. So learn math, kiddos.
Sure. Stay in school.
Stay in school. Whoa. So having seen it now more than me, having seen it now twice, you think that the story is kind of secondary?
Yeah, it just didn't seem like the story was really the point of the movie.
I'd agree with that. I kind of took the seat there of kind of like really, but yeah, I do agree with you.
The evidence is in the movie, just because. Did they ever beat Hela? They didn't beat Hela.
We don't know if she's even gone. By the way,
but you see, they fight in every encounter they have, and every time they mention her, they immediately give up. Like, we can't beat her. You can't beat her. She's too strong.
And forget the hero's journey. It's just like
there's no journey of like rising to the challenge and realizing inner power and stuff. Even when he was all powered up, he couldn't beat her.
It's like, I will take an extra large glass of nope. That's what we're doing. Yeah, that I get you there.
There was just
I'm gonna go
I've
back
got a sister
that.
now. And, oh crap, she's evil, and she shows up in Asgard and takes over Asgard. Then now we got to get Asgard back. Whoops, we couldn't. She's too strong. Blow it up.
So what was she? She was in this. She's the goddess of death, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanos is infatuated with death.
Yeah.
So we did not see her die. We could potentially see Cate Blanchett come back in Avengers.
You think she's going to be a love interest?
I'm going to think that it's possible. Okay, fan fiction if nothing else.
Fan fiction?
No, I don't mean that. Like, we could take that the wrong way. No, what I mean is that as far as by not maybe Infinity War, but the sequel, the fourth Avengers movie, they don't really have a title for it yet. She could come into play because Thanos, his whole game is trying to capture like the love or the affection of death, and we don't have that, but we have Hela. And she is possibly alive. Well, I know we literally saw like it was like the Death Star blowing up. Asgard like just being just ripped to shreds.
Well, not just that, but the fact that as the sword's coming down, it goes like through where she was, and you see like a green explosion or like a green mist, like emanate from the
fake news,
the epicenter of where she was, whatever.
No, I think that she, I think she's still alive. Hey,
you were free to think that.
If people saw Barb's head on season 1 of Stranger Things, they're like, she's still alive. What world are you on? Are you in the Upside Down? It doesn't work.
No. Imagery. I wrote down imagery because I thought there was a good point.
Are you rethinking that now?
No. There's a couple instances that I liked, and it was really great imagery. Like it could have been on like a panel in a book.
And I think I know where you're going. Yeah.
I'm curious now. Which one do you think I'm?
Well, whenever Hela was going against the Valkyries, that looked like Sistine Chapel level, like
Valkyrie falling from the sky.
Yes, and they're and the slow motion of it all tied into that. But visually, that was some of the best stuff in the movie. I could have done with that, and also the fresco art. Like it showed like the history of Asgard, and it was like all safe and sanitized, and like she blew it up, and then you saw that Asgard was built on like the backs of civilizations that Odin and her had conquered or destroyed, and all of that done, as you look at it, slightly shifting. Like it was like the art was alive, which was cool. So lots of cool imagery, not just in the realms of Asgard's past, but throughout the movie. The movie was just kind of all kinds of visuals. It was crazy in that way. Like the color that on display in this movie, on Sakaar especially, it's a trash planet. It could have been completely. I mean, it's a garbage dump for the universe, more or less, and so it could have been terrible to look at, and it was some of the most colorful.
Just trash visuals. Is colorful clothing.
Not always. I mean, have you been to a dump?
You mean not always?
Have you been to a dump? I mean, it's a lot of dirt too, and so a lot of browns. But this was all like popping colors.
That's the whole dirt world it's in. But yeah, I can see. No, there's all types of different colors and stuff of junk. Everybody can be junk. Junk is diverse.
I liked it. So yes, diversity.
But the other major imagery that I was thinking of was Thor's entry into the battle scene at Rainbow Bridge.
Yeah. Talking about just bring the lightning and the thunder.
Yeah. Slow motion falling from the sky with all this lightning coming from behind him. You got the music kicking on right there when he comes in. You got Immigrant Song, and then just blasting everybody there. It was just a really great.
It was awesome. It was an awesome reintroduction of that song, having already used it twice. And I guess since they used it in the marketing, and then it wasn't that it was a total surprise. Had they not used that song in the marketing, I think it would have benefited the movie even better, because it is a perfect song for what this movie was going for. But having heard it in trailers, on different occasions, and then hear it in the movie twice, it did feel, I guess, slightly overused, and it lost a little bit of the effect. But what about the eye? Thor, is gonna. I mean, he lost an eye, man.
Is it just? I feel like that's all it served was just a visual affirmation of the end of his character arc.
Well, I don't like the fact of how permanent his eye loss is. I'm sure he doesn't either. But
right.
As far as, like you said, it is kind of make explicit what we know. Like, you're Odin now for these people, for your people of Asgard.
Yeah, I think it's a little too on the nose of now you're the king because you only have one eye.
Yeah, it was like, forget that before. You got to lose an eye before you can lead these people. No, but I mean, I don't like the fact, I guess, that of how he's going to interact as a character within Avengers, Now, I believe that with Infinity War, that obviously Thanos within the Infinity Gauntlet has many different stones he's seeking.
Stones.
5 stones.
Sorry, Gary.
The dog, Indiana. Now, but when we when we get to that movie, we'll see that the Time Stone will come into play. So I think we're going to get some flashbacks. So we'll probably get to see Thor and the rest of them kind of as we remember them in different scenes. They'll probably mess with the timelines, what I'm getting at. So it's not like we'll never see him with two eyes again, but it does change things, how I see the character.
See, I can see Marvel playing that off one of two ways. Either they completely disregard the whole thing and have Doctor Strange just with the eye of Agamotto and just
kind of stir it up a little bit. It's like, yeah, I think I can get you an eye.
Yep, and just reverse it. And he's got an eye now, and they're like, oh, well, thanks. I got an eye now. Or they could make it a thing where Thor refuses.
But then on BuzzFeed there'll be a list or something that's like all the things that Doctor Strange could. He's giving God's eyes, but he could do that for everybody else. I could see a list now of all the different Marvel problems that just that brings into existence.
Top 10 people who deserved eyes more than Thor.
Yes, a list. Yes, but no, I mean. The imagery was just zany, crazy, awesome stuff. We talked a lot about characters. Before we finish, I do want to say I've always been a fan of Heimdall. He didn't really get his kick throughout the movie. Like, he was just kind of in the background, kind of a character. Even more in the background than, say, the Warriors 3 or Sif. Heimdall was just kind of there. He gets a lot to do in this movie. And Idris Elba, I think in any movie I've ever seen him in, he always delivers. He always gives exactly what's needed. And in this movie, it was great to see him be kind of, a leader. I mean, he is going to be a leader right alongside Thor for the Asgardians, whatever happens. But to see him kind of shepherding the people while Ragnarok is happening was great. Gave him something to do.
I appreciated what he did in the movie and what role he served.
Yeah. And
that he was really very much like a grounding of the movie, and that, hey, we're all laughing, joking, but oh, wait, hey, I need to see what's going on in Asgard. And he has that moment of walking with Heimdall in the vision, having his sight, and can see what's going on. And it really grounded. It's like, okay, here's the Thor movie. Here he can see what's going on.
There are glimpses in this movie throughout, like before Hela shows up and Odin's going away, like they're sitting there. Looking over, I guess, like the cliffs of Dover, wherever that was. Like, they're looking out there reflectively and talking about things. That felt like a traditional, I guess you could say traditional after two movies, a traditional Thor movie. The interactions with Heimdall, a traditional Thor movie. But you don't get a whole lot of moments like that in this movie. But it was a refreshing thing to me, because the movie was so crazy and wacky and fun, but crazy, that those felt like moments to kind of come up for air. Like you're just getting covered up with all this, and what's going to happen next, and then all of a sudden it gets familiar, and you're like, I can breathe for just a minute, and then it gets back into something crazy. I was glad that Heimdall was able to give that. But I mean, I guess that's about it with him. But I just didn't want to be done without saying that I really enjoyed him.
Did you catch? I'm sure you probably did.
Don't be so sure of yourself.
The big tower in Sakaar.
Well, who all was on it?
Yeah, that you saw a Corbinite head on it, and thinking maybe Beta Ray Bill may show up at some point.
That may be as close as we ever get, but the fact that it was referenced that he exists, that Corbinites exist, was cool, because. Okay, so if there was ever a movie that would reference and show us... Okay, so if Guardians of the Galaxy could show us Howard the Duck, then this movie, Thor Ragnarok, could have shown us Beta Ray Bill. You know what I mean? As far as the crazy and the unpredictable nature, it would have been like... I think the general audience would have been like, what? But this movie could have done that because it was just so crazy. It's too early for Bill. Yeah, we're not there yet.
We're not ready for you, Bill. Just...
Hang on, hold up.
I'm ready for Bill, but not everybody's going to be ready for Bill just yet. You got to ease into it.
He's an acquired taste. Yeah. But yeah, that was cool. And seeing all the different past champions, it looked like they were building the Hulk one, I guess, because he was kind of a recent champion. So his was kind of under construction, but that was a cool touch. One of those little deep cuts that fans get,
So, and we got the destruction of Mjolnir now.
Meow meow.
Meow Meow is gone.
Meow meow is gone.
Do you think we may see what's Thor going to do now? Is he just going to be weaponless?
He's probably going to take up a hobby. Like crochet. Or,
sure.
I mean, something. He's got to use his hands for something.
Or at least they like magical crochet needles or something.
Maybe. I mean, I could see him being very dangerous with anything he's given. Now, I don't know. What would he do? So the pieces of Mjolnir, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they're sitting there. What was it, like in Denmark or England or where it was?
Scandinavian country.
Yeah, it's like they're there. I mean, she just flew off with both of them in tow, and so the pieces are there. It's kind of like, okay, after all this is done, we're gonna get back together and we can patch it up, make it just like new. Maybe get some super glue.
And he discussed it with Korg, and that they will not say the word Uru for some reason.
Did they ever?
No.
In any movie, I don't think they did.
No, but he just said it was a special metal that was forged in the heart of a dying star.
Yeah.
That's all we got.
That's all we get, folks.
So that, and I had an issue with the Thor encounter when he was getting basically just torn up by Hela. His little, I don't know, epiphany or supernatural talk with his dad, with Odin.
Olden.
That whole thing where he's like, "Hey, are you Thor, the god of hammers? No, are you Thor, god of thunder?" He says, "You've always had the power. That this hammer was just to focus your powers and help you learn how to use them," which made no sense because the very first movie is him talking on the hammer with the famous words on the hammer.
Whoever's worthy.
Yeah, whoever possesses or has this hammer, should he be worthy, shall possess the power of Thor. Like, Thor was in the hammer, and even in the first comics that he was introduced in, the hammer gave him the powers. When he was not touching the hammer, he went back to being Donald Blake.
Yeah, and I realize that for the comics, but we should know at this point the fact that Donald Blake just happened to be a name thrown out in the first movie as an old boyfriend that used as a name for Jane Foster's old boyfriend to kind of give him a, oh, well, that's who he is type thing. We should know that they could care less about where it came from in that regard. But I do agree with you that it did feel a little odd to kind of, I guess the whole reason we're even talking about Mjolnir right now is that it's synonymous with his identity. And what's his identity going to be now? He's essentially Odin, a young Odin, leading people. Now, he's not so much Thor as we've known him. Like, if he arrives at Earth, if that ship just, warp drives or whatever to Earth and
make it so, number one.
And land, just, hey guys, we're here. Why are y'all at the airport? Where are y'all going? Why are you fighting? But whenever you have him just show up, he's going to be a vastly different character, just on the terms of having not lost the hammer. Obviously, having lost the eye, but the hammer is much more important than that scene made it out to be. But the pieces are there, and maybe they'll have like a craft day and they'll glue it all back together, and it'll all be good.
But is the glue worthy?
Strong is the glue worthy. I just had the picture of him at like a craft store at Walmart, Target, or something, walking in. It's like looking at the different brands of glue. You're not worthy, and like throwing it aside.
They're making that some kind of like side plot of, well, we do have this glue in the back that none of us have been able to lift before.
Yeah, or
and he just immediately picks it up,
asking a bunch of welders like, are you worthy to fix my hammer? But yeah, I think Mjolnir has to come back. I think it has to. Going back to my idea about the time stone, maybe something will happen where, time shifted and it's like he never lost it. I don't know.
Ooh, that would be an interesting use of the time stone. Just
to reset things.
So do you want to be able to see 2020 again, or do you want your hammer back? And I think probably just anybody would pick the hammer at that point. But
who needs an eye? I can have a hammer.
Well, it's a hammer nobody can lift. It served a lot of purposes in there. He wouldn't have got away from the very first scene in the movie without that hammer.
True.
He can't fly without it.
I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like you've got to have it because Thor's just walking around. It's like, he can't take the flying aspect out of the Chitauri invasion of Avengers 1. Thor is useless. Like Hawkeye was more useful than him. I mean, and I don't mean that as a knock, but I mean he's actually shooting projectile way, way off. Thor would just be like, "Come over here. I'll take care of it. Get over here." Yeah, he can't really go anywhere.
Well, he wouldn't have been able to use his powers as effectively as he finally was able to in Ragnarok, apparently. But just shooting lightning at all those incoming Chitauri would have been pretty helpful, I think. But
yeah,
and he was never going to reach his back and find out that now he's useless.
That song now, I will never stop hearing that song. When I hear that song, I'm gonna think of this movie.
Yeah, the first verse of that song, why it was so.
Well, it's like steeped in Norse mythology, isn't it?
Yeah, like the very first verse is the hammer of the gods will guide our ships to new lands. Right? Yeah, in Valhalla, I'm coming.
Yeah,
it's
steeped.
Yeah,
steeped in the Norse mythology.
They knew they were going to be writing the song for Ragnarok
decades ago. Yeah, they had already worked out the licensing deals. They did that with Stan Lee. I heard that from him. Yeah, no, I'm just kidding. Surely that was already planned out way back. Now, but what about the after credits?
I thought this was like the most poor use and pointless after credit scenes that we've gotten so far.
Considering that we are at the edge of Infinity War, you're right. I agree. Now that ship has been confirmed. That's Thanos or one of his minions.
Well, it's obvious.
Yeah, I know it has to be. But I know there were people there at my showing like, oh, who is that? Like, at this point, I think you have to be. If you follow these movies along, you have to know what's coming. But it would have been nice, I guess, to make that a little more clear for folks in some way. Because I mean, we've seen Thanos on several occasions.
The words Thanos spray painted on the side.
Well, no, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, having him, I don't know, say something, do something, referenced in some way. Maybe if it was a command ship, you just saw his hand kind of grip the chair of his ship, and you can kind of you see like, okay, we know who this is. That would have made that infinitely more better, but it would have made it more better.
And then to even add insult to injury, at the very end of sitting through those long credits.
Don't even, yeah.
After to see that crappy Grandmaster scene again, you have to see Jeff Goldblum one more time. Being forced to watch him just fumble around dialogue.
Yeah. Well, I guess considering that the last time we waited around for a Marvel movie was Spider-Man: Homecoming, that one was infinitely more satisfying about patience. Captain America, sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. That was funny, and that was probably one of Grandmaster's most awkward scenes, and they put it after we've waited what felt like 15 minutes into it. So yeah,
after we've already decided we don't like him as a character.
I didn't. Yeah. But Guardians had, I believe, 4 scenes, after credit scenes, and
I think it was 5.
It had a bunch. I don't remember 4 or 5, but it was
we're
a
change
bunch.
The number from 4 to a bunch.
Yeah. The jury's still out on this, but now there were quite a few, and so to go back to kind of a more, I believe the first, like the Avengers or the early movies had always just had 1. This had 2, but that 1 was pretty disappointing. So just taking it off just the Thanos, it just really didn't do a whole lot.
And actually, in my showing, I actually had someone in front of me say, "I bet that sets up Infinity War." Like, are you kidding?
I bet it does. I think I'd bet the house on that.
Do you even Marvel, bro?
Yeah. I mean, I guess that's another thing is with these movies is that you have people from all different walks of life that are enjoying these for different reasons. That we kind of, it just clicks. For some, it may not, but yeah. I mean, all in all, I enjoyed it.
I would say I really enjoyed it as a movie. It was a really good movie. I didn't enjoy it as a Thor movie.
Really? So was this your least favorite Thor movie?
No.
Was it your most favorite?
I think it's funny. It's just that it was. Well,
you're in this weird spot, aren't you?
It's weird to say. I don't. It's really kind of. It was so all over the place. I don't even think it really counts as a Thor movie to compare it to the other two.
I've heard it classified as Guardians of the Galaxy. I thought that's about as good of a
I have not heard that.
Yeah, as a name as you could call it, and that kind of tells you everything you need to know about it. But no, I liked it. I didn't love it as far as like saying that it's going to be in like my top 3 Marvel movies or anything like that. Now you had high praise for it. You said like when I remember after watching it the first time, top 5 Marvel movies. Listening to you talk about the podcast, I don't know if I would get that impression because you had issues with it. No movie's perfect, but do you still think?
Well, the point is to be critical and I mean, in some instances nitpick and some actual like criticisms of the movie, but I really did like it as a Marvel movie. Just I didn't really feel it didn't have a really good Thor vibe for me. I just didn't feel like I watched a Thor movie, I guess is a better way of phrasing that. But just as a Marvel movie, as movies that I would sit down and watch of the Marvel movies.
Very entertaining.
Yeah, it was an entertaining Marvel movie. So I guess that's where it came from. It wasn't until recently that I could think about it. It's like, well, I didn't really like it that much as a Thor movie, but as an overall movie or even
so it's one that if you have all 17, and you do have all 17 at your disposal, it would be one that it's like, what am I going to do tonight? I'm going to watch Thor. I say you have all 17. You don't have this one, but it's not out on digital yet, but you will at some point.
That is correct, FBI. I do not own this movie.
We do not pirate, no. But at some point you'll have it. This would be one you'd go back to.
Yeah, at some point I'll have it.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I would recommend folks to go see it. I think the interesting thing about it is that I do agree with you that it doesn't feel like maybe the best Thor movie. It was a lot of fun. But I think that there are folks who have never watched... They've watched maybe some Marvel movies. You could throw them into this movie. I would love to see what they get out of it. Like, it's crazy. It's funny. Like, it would be fun. But I would love to hear their take on it, you know.
It's like, I don't know who any of these people
are,
but
I'm having a great time. Yeah, I mean, it would be fun. That would be fun to hear. But you got anything else to add?
Nope.
All right. Well, of course, you can catch us on Twitter and Instagram at Geeks Assemble. Facebook at facebook.com/Geeks Assemble podcast. The Citadel, our community group, which has been great, and we're loving it, and we love people to talk and let us have feedback there. It's facebook.com/groups/Geeks Assemble podcast. Where our hosting site is Podcast Garden, which you can find us, our page for that at podcastgarden.com/podcast/Geeks Assemble. Reach out to us on any of those platforms. Please tell others about us. If you can rate us on what you listen to, please do so. Every rating helps us and gets the word out about us, and we appreciate it. So,
thanks for listening. I am Chance.
Colby. We'll be here next time.